Hey everyone, I'm Ronan and welcome back to the channel. Today we are taking two requested videos, one for a Poisonmancer Geomancer-esque theme using poison and acid-based magic, and combining that with the Conjuration Wizard. Conjuration Wizardry is something I have hardly tried in game until I made this video, and it is a ton of fun. Combine that with a lot of really cool acid and poison based spells in game, and you have a really great utility damage based build. I hope you guys enjoy. If you want to see any other future builds, comment down below what you want to see next. My next few videos will be all requested videos, so hopefully you enjoy. This video will be up a little bit earlier than normal. My normal upload schedule is Saturdays, but this Friday and Saturday I will be live streaming my honor mode playthrough. So definitely stop by, say hi. It'll be right here on YouTube. I love interacting with you guys. It's been a ton of fun so far with the past streams, so definitely stop by. And for those who do celebrate the holidays, I hope you have a great time with family and friends. Let's break this build video down. Alright guys, when it comes to creating your character, my build will be for honor mode specifically. That way it will have utility throughout any mode you want to play through. When it comes to race for those who want to min-max, here are the races I'm going to recommend. First off, if you want to be an origin character, obviously being a wizard based character, Gale right here is going to fit perfectly. The Dark Urge is also very useful because you do gain some really awesome unique items in game for being the Dark Urge, unique interactions, and just a really cool story. That being said, if you want to be a custom character itself with your own backgrounds and things like that, here's what I'm going to say. Race wise, I think Half Elf is probably going to be one of the best races to actually be. They are very strong, and you're going to gain some benefits for being a half-elf regardless. So right off the start, if you are a half-elf, you gain the Civil Militia for being part human. The reason why this is important is because this will give you shield proficiency, which is going to be really nice for a squishy class because wizards are very squishy. So having shield proficiency to up your AC is going to be a lot of benefit to survivability. You're going to gain Dark Vision, which humans normally don't have, which comes from the half-elf side of the heritage. If you're in the Underdark, for example, and you see your chance to hit with a spell, or even if you're a melee character, for example, and you see your hit chance is lower than other people, it may be because you're in a dark area, you're obscured, so having the extra Dark Vision will greatly help out when it comes to your hit chances in darker areas, and it's free. You also gain Fey Ancestry. You can't be put to sleep ever, which is just nice to be immune to that, but you also have advantage against checks for being charmed. Basically meaning the chance for you to be charmed is going to be very low. Now when it comes to your different heritages here for the different actual elves, I don't like the high elf at all. I feel like there's really no benefit to be this if you're a caster because you're going to gain a lot of cantrips anyway. The drow half elves are pretty unique because you will be able to actually gain some cool stuff here. You gain a cantrip, Dancing Lights, which you really don't need, but you will gain Fairy Fire, which wizards normally do not learn, so it's one way to gain that spell for a wizard that you normally wouldn't be able to. I like going Wood Elf here though, because you gain the extra 5 feet movement, and you would be surprised how much the extra movement in honor mode will make a difference. Alright guys, this is my stat spread for leveling up. If you want to have a little bit more dexterity for extra AC versus HP, feel free to move stats around. I do not plan to use the Hag's Hair for this build, so obviously if you want to use the Hag's Hair to get intelligence higher, you'll have to have 17 at the start. The reason I have it like this is because 2 of our feats will be ASI to get your intelligence directly to 20, and then the other feat will be up to you, but I am going to give some recommendations. You are really squishy as a wizard, so you definitely want some high constitution, but if you'd rather have a little bit more AC, feel free to flip those. Your skill proficiencies and your background, put in whatever you want, it's going to be up to you. My cantrips wise, for what I chose, I went with Poison Spray, which is one of the hardest hitting cantrips, but it is only within 10 feet because it's 1d12, and once you hit level 10 it will be 3d12. I went with Acid Splash to fit the theme of being a Geomancer, and I went with Minor Illusion as well because Minor Illusion is pretty useful in game. My starting spell list here, feel free to mess around with what you want, but my recommendation Shield for sure, giving you extra AC, and immunity to magic missiles is really strong. Longstrider is just a ritual spell, giving everyone extra 10 feet of movement is huge. If you have this on another class in your party, then you don't need it, but this is a great way to get it right from the start of the game. I went with Ray of Sickness just to keep the theme of being a Geomancer poison type build. Magic Missiles, such a great spell. If something is going to resist your poison damage, then you always have a follow-up for Magic Missiles, because force damage is one of the least amount of resisted types of damage in game. You have Chromatic Orb, which can use a different variety of elements to choose from, but this spell does fall off later on because it doesn't scale that well. And of course Mage Armor, because you definitely want the extra AC. Alright, when we level, we are actually going to be going Conjuration. So right from the very beginning, you have your subclass feature here. One thing it gives you is if you use a scroll to learn Conjuration spells, it will be cheaper. Cool stuff. You also learn Minor Conjuration Create Water. You can use this once per long rest without using any type of spell slot, which is really cool. So if you do have someone else in your party that does lightning damage or cold damage, this is a great way to make them do double damage. Spell wise here, feel free to pick whatever you didn't pick before. I do find having Tasha's Hideous Laughter is pretty dang useful. It's a nice way to CC. Enhanced Sleep can also be very useful since you do have pretty low strength. Because you're low strength, your jump distance is really nothing. So this is a great way to help out for getting across different areas outside of combat. Grease is definitely useful, but I don't find it super useful, but it is a conjuration spell which will have benefits as you level up that we'll talk about in a bit. So at level 3, this is when you get some more spells, and this is when we get some cool things. So here you get Melf's Acid Arrow. This is the only other acid spell that does damage in game that you can actually have access to other than your cantrip. And this is pretty cool because it does direct damage, but then will also do damage as well later on. You can read it does direct damage and then damage at the end of the target's turn. So this is a great way to do direct and passive damage, so really useful. Your other spells here are going to be up to you on what you want to use. Cloud of Daggers, conjuration spell, very strong. And everyone knows how great darkness is. I'm going to go with Cloud of Daggers here because this is one of the strongest concentration spells in the game. Alright, level 4, you get another cantrip. Pick whatever you want. I do think Firebolt is pretty useful. It will go to 3d10 fire damage later on, which is pretty nice, so feel free to have that, but pick whatever you want. Spell wise here, definitely get Misty Step. Being able to use a bonus action to teleport across the battlefield is very strong. Your other spells will be up to you. Hold Person is another great way to essentially CC the target, but it is a concentration, so I like having Hold Person on non-damage dealers and more so for people that are going to be supportive. So other spells, literally pick whatever you think it's going to be useful. Fog Cloud is also pretty useful, but it's a much smaller area compared to Darkness. Your feat obviously is going to be ability improvement. We're going to get our intelligence to 18, that way you get another modifier towards your intelligence. Alright, so at level 5, you definitely get some even more powerful spells. You for sure are going to need Counterspell. This thing is an absolute game wrecker. If you have some spells that you end up getting decimated by, there will be chances, wow, Counterspell really could have saved me there. Other than that, I'm going to say either go Stinking Cloud. This thing is very strong. This lasts for 10 turns, it's a concentration, and once you get to a higher level in Wizard, this will actually have even better benefits, but it literally stops characters from taking actions. This is very strong, so if you want the extra CC, Stinking Cloud could definitely be a way to go. Or you can go Fireball if you do want some bigger damage. Either way, you're going to get both eventually. Alright, Wizard level 6, you get a really cool subclass feature here. Basically, you can teleport to a nearby unoccupied space, or you can swap spaces with an ally. You would be surprised how strong this is. It's basically a way to kind of like teleport like you do with Misty Step, but the fact that you can do this on an ally and completely swap positions can for sure change the tides of battle. If a character is about to die or you need them to get out, this is a great way to do that. Spell wise, pick the spell you didn't pick before. For me, it's going to be Sinking Cloud here. And then your other spells will be up to you. The reason I don't take haste is because I like having haste on a sorcerer so you can double haste people. So for me personally, I'm going to go with more utility here. So I'm going to go darkness, but pick whatever you want. Wizard level 7, of course you unlock level 4 spells now, and this is when you get some really fun stuff. If you want to have some more elementals to help you out for just even more side damage, feel free to grab those. You could also have Wall of Fire, really nice for AoE damage. Fire Shield I would not recommend because you're trying not to get hit, so I wouldn't recommend this one at all. If you want some ice damage, feel free to pick that. Pick whatever spells you think are going to be useful here. I do find the Black Tentacles also to be pretty useful. It is a concentration spell and it is conjuration as well. But once you get to level 10, this will get even more benefit. Wizard level 8, go ahead and pick any spell that you didn't pick before. But you also get a feat, and guess what we're going to go with? Ability improvement, getting our intelligence to 20. My recommendation for spells at this level is going to be Dimension Door, another great utility spell to basically just target you and an ally to another area, whether you want high ground, if you want to escape, or just simply get closer to a target. And I actually like the sphere here as well. This is a great like oh shit button, like oh wow, this character is probably gonna die and there's nothing you can do to save them. Well, use this on them. It will literally make them immune to damage pretty much. It's really, really strong, but on their turn, their movement is halved and they can't really do anything to attack, but it is a great way to save them from dying. Alright, Wizard level 9, this is when you get some really cool things. And remember, a lot of these spells you can learn with scrolls, so you don't necessarily need to follow my exact guide here, since a lot of these can be learned via Wizard scrolls. But for this level, I'm going to go Cloud Kill. This is going to be really, really strong, and we'll talk about why soon. And of course, Conjure Elemental, another summon you can have that just do even more damage. Wizard level 10. Now this is when all those concentration spells I talked about are going to be a lot stronger. Specifically, if you read for conjuration spells, any damage you take while concentrating on a conjuration spell will not break it. This means you are completely immune to having your concentration spells broken by damage as long as it's conjuration, and there's quite a few conjuration spells we already talked about. This will affect all of those. This is really, really strong, and the whole reason why conjuration is really awesome for this type of build. Alright, Wizard level 11, this is when you unlock your final spells for like super strong spells. And although a lot of these can be learned via scroll, like the Globe, for those who don't have access to the scrolls, you might as well get Globe now. This thing is just a killer for honor mode. This thing is so strong. This will literally save you and your allies a ton. Very, very strong. The other spell I'm going to say is Disintegrate. This thing hits so freaking hard. It does so much damage. It's force damage. Absolutely insane with how strong this is. Alright guys, here we are. The final level, level 12. This is when you get your third feat. And in my opinion, depending on the type of build you go for, that extra feat is going to be very useful. Spell wise here, pick what you want. Remember, you are a wizard, so majority of these spells can be learned via scroll anyway. Shout out to Arcane Gate. This is a great conjuration spell, but keep in mind, enemies can utilize the gates you create, so it does have some downside. So looking at feats, I'm going to recommend Spell Sniper personally. This just gives you extra crit, which is never a bad thing, and you get to learn another cantrip. If you want Eldritch Blast, this would be really cool because Eldritch Blast, as this will actually use your intelligence instead of charisma like it normally would for warlocks. So this is a great way to add some extra cantrip damage on something that can hit multiple targets. It does force damage. It's really, really strong. I also like taking Thorn Whip. This will do piercing damage, and you can pull enemies closer. So if there's an enemy at a range, this is a great way to pull them towards you. That way your allies can beat them up if you have some melee with you, or to just pull someone down from a high ledge. So I'm going to actually go Thorn Whip here. And I like this because this will give you a higher chance to crit as well. But I do want to give a shout out to the Dual Wielder feat. Dual Wielder will allow you to dual wield versatile weapons. Example, if you have a staff, normally you cannot dual wield a staff unless you use this feat. This will give you +1 AC, which is never a bad thing while dual wielding. And what's even better, there are some very powerful staffs in game. If you saw my end game Frost Mage build, he used dual wield staffs. You can do a lot of cool combinations. For this build specifically though, I am using a shield for survivability, especially on honor mode. So instead, I am going to be taking Spell Sniper. Let's go ahead and take a look at gear now, guys. Alright guys, it is time to talk gear. This is an endgame build, so I will talk about endgame gear mostly, but I will talk about some other gear. That way, if you do want to utilize some things for Acts 1 and 2, we'll talk about that later in the video. So starting out, what makes this build so strong with a Conjuration Wizard is the Legendary Staff. You're going to need this staff. This gives you Arcane Enchantment, +1 bonus to your spell save DC and spell attack rolls. Fantastic. You get Arcane Battery, allowing you to, once per long rest, get a free level 6 spell slot for any spell you want. Very strong. But you also get Kariska's Favor, if I said that correctly. Basically, you have a bunch of different elements you can attune to. You will do extra damage to that element to your proficiency bonus at level 12 is +4. But here's where it gets really strong. There's going to be 2 recommendations here. We'll start with the first one, Deadlier Than Arsenic. Whenever you do spell damage, you can poison the target, which is really strong because enemies that are poisoned have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. Allows you to cast Cloud Kill and Raise Sickness for free, so that one's pretty cool, right? But what about Sizzling Cataclysm? Now this is when things get really, really strong. Okay. So, acid spells you do extra damage. Whenever you do spell damage, you have a chance to apply Noxious Fumes to the enemy, a radius of 10 foot doing 1d4 acid damage. But it gives you Melf's Acid Arrow, which is cool, you can use it once per long rest for free, and it gives you Hunger of Hadar. This spell is insanely broken on a Conjuration Wizard. If you saw my leveling section, at level 10 Conjuration Wizards, any concentration spell that's considered Conjuration will not break from damage. Hunger of Hadar is one of the best spells in the game when it comes to CC and just really kind of like toying with your enemy, I guess you could say. Enemies are blinded in the area, so already fantastic. It's difficult terrain, so it's going to be harder for them to get out. At the start of the enemy's turn, they take cold damage, and if they end their turn in that area, they have a chance to take acid damage. This ability is so strong. Like, I cannot tell you how much I love this spell. Wizards cannot learn this normally. No class can other than Warlocks and Bards. Bards can learn it via magical secrets, and Warlocks can just learn it from leveling. This thing is insane. It's not on any scroll that I've seen in game, so you can't learn it via scroll. The only way to get it is either multi-classing or get it from this way with this staff. Really, really strong. And Force Conduit's really great with this shield here. I love this shield. Force Conduit just makes you take less damage. At the start of your turn, you have 2 stacks of Force Conduit, giving you 2 less damage from all piercing, slashing, and bludgeoning damage. It definitely helps out for survivability if you go to get hit from ranged attacks from like bows, for example, and things like that. So this is very useful to have. Other shields could be the Sentinel shield here. Increased initiative and advantage on perception ability checks. Ketheric shield, very, very strong. So you have the Necklace of Elemental Augmentation. If you're going to be focusing more on acid, this is really useful. Whenever you deal a cantrip that does elemental damage, which is almost every element in the game, it does not include poison for whatever reason, but it will add your spellcasting modifier to the damage dealt. We have 20 intelligence, our modifier is 5, so it's +5 damage to those element types. So your cantrip here, for example, if you go to do Acid Splash, it will do an additional +5 damage. But if you are attuned to the acid legendary staff, it adds the proficiency bonus to the damage as well. If you'd rather not worry about that, maybe you like using a bunch of different spells, my other recommendation is this necklace here. You get an Act 1, magic missiles, free force damage, never misses. It allows you to essentially just cast an extra spell. Because magic missiles, every level you go up, it adds another missile. It's essentially like getting a 7th rank magic missiles if you use it at level 6. Really, really strong, and it's a great necklace to have. Rings. Now, the rings can be interchanged depending on what you want. The number one ring I say you should always use, though, is this ring you see on screen now. This thing is insane because mental fatigue was reworked with the latest patch. This will actually stack now. So whenever you pass your spell save DC, meaning the enemy fails, they take -1 to wisdom, intelligence, and charisma saving throws. Meaning you and your allies can do even more spell casting on the enemy because the chances are they'll probably fail again. It can stack up to 5 times, and at 5 stacks, they can take D4 psychic damage. Really, really strong. I really like this ring a lot. Now here's the other ring if you want a lot of burst. So you have the Poisoner's Ring. You get this in Act 2 from Roa Moonglow. It gives you a unique ability you can use once per long rest, and it can hit up to 3 targets. As long as the enemy is not immune to poison damage, those enemies will now have double damage taken from poison, which is really, really strong, especially if you think about how powerful this is in combination with some of the AoE spells you have. Really awesome. That way you can do some big bursts for poison. Now, if you don't want to worry about that though, my other recommendation is going to be the Corsication Ring. This is nice. Adding radiant orbs to the enemy is going to be a great way to lower their hit chance so you and your allies survive even more. Or the Kalos Glow Ring, simply just doing extra radiant damage on spells. Now when it comes to the other armor, this is my recommendation. So you have the Hood of the Weave, +2 bonus to spell save DC and attack rolls, and in honor mode, trust me, you want as much spell save DC as you can have. You have Cloak of the Weave. This is nice because it's even more spell save DC and for your attack rolls and things like that. I know there is a cloak because I know people are going to mention it. In Act 2, there is a cloak you can get that whenever you poison the target, it will heal you. Seems pretty strong. I would rather have the spell save DC though to make sure my spells will actually hit and do maximum damage rather than get healed for 1d4 whenever I poison the target. That's going to be up to you though, whether you want to use that or this here. If you'd rather be a little bit more defensive though, you do of course have Cloak of Protection, +1 to your AC and saving throws, or Cloak of Displacement, giving you giving the enemies disadvantage on attack rolls, but once you do get hit, the effect goes away until your next turn. Now when it comes to your chest piece, you can see I have 16 AC. I didn't use Mage Armor yet, so once you use Mage Armor, I'm at 19 AC. So right here, Robe of the Weave, fantastic. +1 bonus to your spell save DC and attack rolls. Awesome, because we want to get that stacked as much as we can. Also, whenever you succeed a saving throw against a spell, you gain HP, and it gives you AC +2. Really, really strong for a chest piece, and it's the chest piece you should get in Act 3 as soon as you can. You get it in the same area that you get the legendary staff. Gloves is going to be up to you on how you do this. So if you, with your staff, are going to be attuned to the poison section, you don't need to use the poisoner's gloves. What this does is whenever you poison the enemy, or deal poison damage I should say, they need to make a constitution saving throw, and if they fail, they become poisoned, which is great because as mentioned before, that means they have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. So if you don't want to use this, there's a ton of different gloves you can use in game for a wide variety of things. Pick whatever you want, it's going to be up to you. Gloves of Dexterity is also very useful for this. If you wanted to redo your stats and have 0 dexterity and put them in something else, Gloves of Dexterity is a great way to get your AC up even higher, especially if you are attuned to poison with your staff. That way you can still poison the enemy. It's going to be up to you though. Feel free to use whatever gloves you want for this build. Now boots, I like using the Stormy Clamor boots here. Whenever you deal a condition on the enemy, you do 2 turns of reverberation, which is really, really powerful. They take -1 to strength, dex, and constitution saving throws. At level 5, they must make a check or they're knocked prone and they take thunder damage. Really, really strong. It's really awesome, and this ties really well into poisoning the enemy, which is why I did have the poisoner's gloves earlier. Some other pieces of armor you can use that I don't have because I sold them a while ago. You have the poisoner's robe you can get inside Act 1 that I'll put on screen now. Whenever you deal poison damage with a spell, you deal additional poison damage. Pretty dang strong. And that's going to be really my only other recommendation to use throughout Acts 1 and 2. Gear wise, feel free to use what you think is going to be good for you. Act 3 though, as soon as you can, you want to get the gear I listed here. Now, let's take a look at combat, because this gets really, really fun. Alright guys, so some things I do want to state. I do have some spells in here that I learned via scrolls. Example, Glyph of Warding. This thing is really strong, because you can do acid damage, cold, you can knock people back, fire, lightning, you can put AoE sleep, really, really strong, thunder. I really like Glyph of Warding a lot. It's really, really cool. But I do want to show a real cool tip here. Once you get the Spellcrux Amulet, which you can get inside Act 2, when you conjure your elemental, always conjure it to a higher spell slot here. You have the Water Elemental that it becomes a Myrmidon now, which has some really cool spells. Shout out to Healing Vapors. This will heal allies and poison enemies. The Fire Elemental becomes Fire Myrmidon here, which is really cool. It gets fire-based attacks, but then also gets emulation, hastening, really cool. You have the Earth one, the Earth Myrmidon, gets some really defensive things here. And then the Air becomes the Air Myrmidon, which gets invisibility, Raging Vortex, and the Electrified Flail, which is nice to stun the enemy. So when it comes to these, always get a level 6 version. It's going to be up to you on which one you want to use specifically. I'm going to go with the Air one just because I think it's cool, but any of these would be useful. So I cast it and you're like, oh no, my level 6 spell slot is gone. Well, you have the Spellcrux Amulet, which is cool because now I could do this, go like that, and get my spell back. You could use arcane recovery charges, but why use it when you can get it for free? So one thing you can do that is really, really fun in my opinion, using your cantrips here with Minor Illusion, go ahead and create an illusion up here. I'm going to enter turn-based mode. They're all next to each other and they're going to go towards this illusion I created. So this is a great way if you just want some like on-demand burst real quick at the start. Go ahead and get them wet with your create water. They're going to be like, what the hell is going on? You can exit turn-based mode. They're all wet, so go ahead and summon your guy again. Put it in turn-based. Now I can use my Glyph of Warding here. You can go cold or lightning depending on what you want to do. And if you upscale this, it's going to do a ton of damage on top of all the enemies. I'm going to have my elemental go ahead and attack them. And this is the reason why I chose the air elemental, because he's already got some really cool electrified things he can do. You can go ahead and like get some big time bursts on at least one target. And you can see I just did a ton of damage to all these people. And that's a great way if you just want on-demand bursts by yourself, you can do. But that pretty much ruins the demo. So let's go ahead and take a look at if you don't set up and just things you can do normally. Alright, so to start combat, I'm going to go ahead and try to poison everyone. The only downside of this ring is the fact that once you kill someone that is vulnerable to poison, you can't use it again until your next long rest. So this is more of a boss killer, but it is very, very strong nonetheless. And I'm going to try getting it to the healer back there just because I don't like her healing everyone, and I'll try hitting another target as well. And you can see he passed, but she failed her check, which is pretty damn cool. Now that it's my turn, I can go ahead and use either something like Cloud Kill to go ahead and get all of them inside the poison damage, or I could go ahead and try to choose to simply burst her down right now for a really big crit. So I could use Raise Sickness for free, 68.6. If you see here, I could choose here, you can see the damage. it goes up to 78. So this is only considered a 5th level spell slot. So instead, let's use Arcane Battery, 6th level spell, and now use Ray Sickness. I'm going to hit her and I'll get the guaranteed crit, just so you guys can see the damage. You can see that was a lot of damage, 130. I'm going to use my Illithid power I have here just to not worry about that. Do a little bit of extra damage, and because it is a spell and I am attuned to spells, he is now poisoned, which is fantastic because, as mentioned before, poisoned enemies have disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks. Alright, so now that it's my turn, I used up all of my actions on my first turn, so I only have a bonus action. I'm going to go ahead and just jump up here. And I purposely wanted this guy to come up here because I want to show the benefit of the shield spell. My guy here, I'm going to come over. We're going to actually start and try to electrocute someone here with his spell now. I missed, but I do have tenacity, so at least at the very least, a little bit of extra damage. And I'm leaving him down there, that way he can kind of just be a tank for me. So he did hit me. And that one hit as well, which is a little unfortunate. I was hoping it wouldn't hit as high. I didn't have a chance to proc shield, but if it was a little bit lower of a hit, I would have been able to negate the damage. So this is what I'm talking about. You see, they rolled a 21 to hit. I'm going to use shield, increase my AC by +5. So the initial hit missed, but the explosion still hit me. So I saved myself a little bit of damage, and for the entire turn until my turn, I have +5 AC. Alright, so now that it's my turn, I have quite a few different things I can do. So this guy that was up here shooting me, I wish I could pull him down, but he's not in a good position to hit. I have all of these guys stacked up, which is really nice. So I could now choose to do my cloud kill, and it won't affect my elemental here because elementals are immune to poison damage, which is pretty dang cool. So all these guys, they constantly are getting poisoned. They're getting all the reverberation, things like that. So now I could either choose to go ahead and attack some more. I could be utility. It's going to be pretty much up to me what I want to do. Let's go for some acid damage on this guy. So that didn't do much because the attack here, Melv's Acid Arrow, this is more for delayed damage, but as you can read, it applied the acid effect, reducing his AC by 2, which is where it comes really in handy. That way your allies can get better chances of hitting. Alright, the Myrmidon's turn. Go ahead and see. It says I can't target self. There we go. So I did some decent damage, but the electrocution failed. No big deal. He has elemental warp though, so if I want, I can have him warp up here with me as well. Necessarily not the best idea, but I did it anyways just to showcase it. They take damage periodically. And because I had shield earlier, it lasts until my turn. And because of the backlash with reverberation and all that other stuff stacking, he just took all that damage and didn't even hit me. Alright, it is my turn. I am ensnared. I have all these guys next to me. You can see some of them are pretty low. What do I want to do on my turn now? And this is when things get really fun. If you had an ally nearby, I could teleport with your transposition. I don't. So instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my bonus action to use my Misty Step, and I'm going to come down here. And even though this will hit my ally as well, I don't care. I'm going to use Detonation. And I'm going to detonate it on top of them. And I did have to go in my own cloud kill to do that, but I did want to showcase the power of that glyph. And now we have one guy left plus the other archer, so I have quite a few other things I could do. Let's go ahead and use Disintegrate and just completely kill him. So he's gone, and that's basically how you play the build, guys. Really, really strong. I chose to go with the poison for the staff. You can do very similar things and go with the Cataclysm if you do want Hunger of Hadar instead. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget my live stream Friday and Saturday this weekend. Come hang out, guys. It's been a lot of fun. I hope to see you there. Bye-bye.